So we are going to discuss one of the popular interview question, that what are the different ways in which you can purchase EC2 instances. Now we know that EC2 is a compute service provided by AWS, and AWS offers you different ways in which you can purchase EC2 instances. The first is on-demand instances, reserved instances, spot instances, capacity reservations, savings plan, dedicated instances, and dedicated hosts. So we'll have a look at them one by one. So the first option that you get is on-demand instances. So on-demand instances are the instances which you can launch whenever you need, and you only have to pay for the time you use it. There is no long-term commitment, and you don't have to pay any upfront fees, and you pay the standard rates of those instances. But the thing is here, if that instance is already in very high demand, so AWS will not guarantee you that you will get that instance. There might be a possibility that you have requested for an instance and you might not get it. So what will be the use cases for on-demand instances? So on-demand instances you can use for a short-term basis, okay, or when you have unpredictable workloads, majorly in for development and testing environments. So the second option that you get is capacity reservation. The on-demand instances that we just saw were not giving you a guarantee that if you launch an instance and you will get it. So you can go for capacity reservation, where you can reserve a compute capacity for your EC2 in a specific availability zone, that too for any duration. You don't have to go for any commitment, and you will not get any discount as well, but you'll get an assurance that in that specific availability zone you will get an EC2 instance. The third option that you get is reserved instances. Here you can reserve your instances for a long term, and AWS will provide you some discounts, and they provide you up to 72% discount on the on-demand pricing of that instance. But you have to go for a commitment for at least 1 year or 3 year. So even if you are not using your instance for 1 year or 3 year, even then you have to pay for it. You pay for the entire term regardless of your usage. The price of your reserved instance, that will depend on these four attributes. It will depend on your instance type, whether it is T2 or M5 or C5 or whatever. It depends on the region in which you are launching your instance. It will also depend on the tenancy of your instance, whether it is in shared tenancy or is it dedicated. And it also depends on the platform, whether it is a Windows instance or it's Ubuntu or it's Linux. Here you have three payment options. You can either pay the whole amount upfront. You can go for a partial upfront where you pay some amount of money when you are purchasing the option, purchasing the instance, and you can pay later on. And you also have an option of no upfront, okay, where you do not pay at the time of purchasing the instance, but you pay it later on. Here you have two classes, standard and convertible. Standard will offer you more discounts, but here you cannot exchange your instance. You can modify your instance, but you cannot exchange it. But convertible will give you lesser discount, but here you can modify the instance as well as you can exchange the instance with another convertible reserved instance with some different attributes. Okay, now what will be the use case of reserved instances? So the use cases of reserved instances will be at the where you already know that you have to use that particular type of instance for 1 year or 3 year. So in that cases, you will go for reserved instances where your usage is predictable. For example, databases where your workload is consistent. The fourth option that you get is savings plan. So savings plan is also similar to reserved instances, but it is more flexible as compared to reserved instances. Here also you get to save up to 72% on your AWS compute workloads. Savings plan provides you lower prices regardless of instance family. size, OS, tenancy, or AWS region. So you don't have to specify all these things. And you can use savings plan for AWS Fargate as well as AWS Lambda, whereas reserved instances were only for EC2 service. What are the use cases of savings plan? So savings plan is ideal for the organization which has variable workloads and a mix of services, so that you get very high flexibility and you can adapt to changes in the usage pattern. The next option that AWS gives you is spot instances. So spot instances are the most cost effective options to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, and they provide you savings up to 90% as compared to the on demand pricing. So why they are very cheap? Because they are basically some unused EC2 instances, and AWS offers you that those instances to you at a very cheap price. AWS keeps on reducing the price of those instances. Here you have to place a bid, and if your bid price matches the price of that instance, you will get that instance. But the thing about spot instances is that AWS can anytime take away that instance from you. If the demand of that instance is increasing, or if the price of that instance goes up, so AWS will give you a notice of 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes that instance will be taken away from you and the instance will be terminated. So talking about the use cases of spot instances are suitable for the workloads that can handle interruption. That is, the application should be fault tolerant. Spot instances are not suitable for critical workloads. So the applications that are fault tolerant and which can handle interruption, they can take the benefit of cheap price of the spot instances. So the next option that AWS gives you is dedicated hosts. So in AWS data centers, they have huge physical servers, and the EC2 instances that you launch, they are actually hosted on those real physical servers. In dedicated host, you are actually booking the whole real physical server for yourself, and you pay for that host on per hour basis. Since it is dedicated, the whole host capacity is for your use. So, and no one else will be able to launch an EC2 instance in that server. Dedicated hosts allow you to use some existing server licenses. Okay, you can bring your own licenses, and this helps you to meet some regulatory and compliance requirements of a project. Here you get a complete visibility and the complete control on how your instances are placed on that server. The thing about dedicated hosts is that if you restart your instance, the instance will be started on the same host. Now the last option that we get is dedicated instances. So dedicated instances are similar to dedicated hosts, but they offer you a bit less flexibility. So dedicated instances provide you with dedicated hardware for your instances. So it means that it will be only your instances that will be created in that physical server. But here you don't have any control on the placement of your instances on that server. So, so here AWS will decide that on which host your instance will be launched. But once your instance is launched in that, it will be only your instance only. No one else will be able to launch any instance in that hardware. The thing about dedicated instances is, like, if you restart your instance, so it might be created in a separate hardware on a separate server. But again, that server or that hardware will be dedicated for you. No one else will be able to create instances there. And next time when you restart it, maybe it is created in some other server. So here also you pay per instance per hour. Just a quick recap of all the purchasing options. So first we saw on-demand instances. On-demand instances are the instances which you purchase on demand whenever you need it. And Normally when you launch any instance for the purpose of demos, for the purpose of short-term basis, those are by default on-demand instances only. Okay, then we saw capacity reservation. Here you can reserve a capacity of an EC2 instance in a specific availability zone, but you don't give any commitment. Then you have reserved instances, reserved instances, and savings plan. Both of these options, here you have to go for a commitment for either 1 year or 3 year. Then you have spot instances which work on the bidding basis. If your bid price matches the price of that instance, you'll get it. But here you don't have any guarantee that when AWS will claim back the instance from you. So spot instances will be used in non-critical workloads. Then we had dedicated hosts and dedicated instances. These are the options which you can use if you want high security and if you want to meet your compliance requirements. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel and I'll be posting some more interview questions in the future. You can also let me know in the comment box what interview questions you are experiencing in your interviews. I'll make a video for that.